Our first report this evening is from our international correspondent Orla Guerin, and a warning: her report contains some distressing images.
Survivors emerge from the wreckage after what Ukraine says was a Russian airstrike on a maternity hospital. The local governor says pregnant women are among the wounded. There was supposed to be a ceasefire in place to let civilians flee in safety. Instead, this. Here, the massive crater just outside the building. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky called it an atrocity and said there were children under the wreckage.
They
wanted to take the lives of our children, our women, our doctors, who've been fighting for 14 days of war for the lives of every child who came under fire from enemy weapons.
Russia's response: we do not fire on civilian targets. Tell that to those we met fleeing the Russian bombardment of the town of Irpin, just outside the capital, Kyiv. Many had to be carried from here today. They survived the shelling. Now they must survive life cast adrift as a refugee. And a staggering 1 million of Ukraine's children have been uprooted in just 14 days since Russia invaded. The United Nations calls this a dark historical first.
Well, hour after hour, people keep leaving Irpin. The town is being emptied of its residents. And it's not just happening here. There are other cities in Ukraine being bombarded by the Russians where civilians are being driven out. This is just one corner of the fastest growing refugee crisis in Europe since World War II.
We met Svetlana on the road among the newly homeless. Our house is gone, she says. We've been in the cellar for 14 days with no light, water or heat. But we'll be back for sure. Further down the road, the immense relief of reunions. Friends and neighbours who weren't sure they would ever meet again. Svetlana hugs a friend's child. You are alive, my sunlight, she says. Under the watchful eye of Ukrainian troops, many managed to walk away from Irpin today to relative safety outside. We saw these Ukrainian soldiers at the edge of town. Let's go, he says. We have no time. And time may be running out for Irpin. Russian forces have advanced inside. Here's a little of what's in store if they try to get down the road to the capital. Orla Guerin, BBC News, Irpin.
Let's join our chief international correspondent, Lyse Doucet, who's in the capital, Kyiv. And Lyse, what on earth are we to make of today, a day like today, when the Russians allow safe passage to some Ukrainian citizens, but then bomb a maternity hospital?
Ukrainians, including President Zelensky, keep begging the world for help in a war which every day that passes beggars belief. We still don't know if Russia deliberately targeted that hospital. That would be a war crime, but it fits the pattern in this war. The United Nations says that 18 hospitals have been targeted so far, along with schools and orphanages and kindergartens. And in the case of Mariupol, it's not simply that today a maternity hospital was shattered. It is an entire city of suffering. For the past week, they have been without food, without water, without heat, without gas. Today was the 5th straight day where they tried to take advantage of what was supposed to be a humanitarian corridor to get supplies in and to get people out. it didn't work. But in a lull of the fighting, because there are so many dead bodies lining the streets, there was a mass burial. 70 people buried today. No ceremony, no families. In this war, now in its third week, there's no dignity for the dead and for the living. There's growing danger, growing devastation, but also growing defiance.
Lyse, thank you. Lyse Doucet there reporting from Kyiv.